It's a bulging supercar in a small town. There was a friend of mine who left our small town and went all the way to California, became a videographer for Discovery and whatnot. And he would be the crazy guy shooting like World's Deadliest Catch. And anyway, he goes, "Casey, man, we got to do a sizzle about you or something. Like, who knows? You're crazy enough. We got to do a show." I'm like, "All right, let's take the race car." And at the time, I had a chassis built by Bob McKee for the early USRR series, which was the predecessor to Can-Am. And in about 1970-71, it was bodied with a Lola T70 Mark IIIB body. So basically, you know, a European endurance race or something you'd see in the movie Le Mans, that sort of thing. It was basically my entire net worth in my late 20s, right? So I told him, let's take it. I'll find a track day. We would go to Nelson Ledges, this tiny little track up in Akron, Ohio, and just to do some video. And of course, I'm the only goofball showing up in a Can-Am car, basically. Period correct looking clothing, open face helmet, goggles and everything. And I see this blue with white stripes 97 Viper GTS sitting there with a wing on. I'm like, I gotta check this out. It was just cool. I mean, anything built by Bob Lutz, testosterone machine, is probably something I'm gonna wanna drive. And I said to the man who had it, was going to the track day, I said, "Sir, I'm interested in buying one of these cars. Do you mind if I just look inside your car?" And he goes, "Sure, actually, hell, you got a fast car. You can drive it if you want." I'm like, "Really, on the track? Okay, next session? Yeah, all right." And my dad was with me, and as many dads are, he's like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Dad, I'm here in a cool car. I can afford to buy it. Why not? You know, let's test drive it." And I had no idea how to work the head unit, the radio. It was one of those that flip up, and the reason that matters is we're pulling out of the pits to go on the track in this car I've never been in that's fast with my dad, who's being a dad. It was blasting like speed metal, like the whole time. It was like Power Man 5000 or something like this, like full stereo. Your hair is tingling, it's so loud. My dad's like, "Turn that crap off." And I'm like, "I know, man." And I pushed buttons and the head unit just folds up. And I'm like, I don't know how to use this, Dad. We gotta just go. He's like, "But this is crap." And I'm like, "Just go with it, man." And I just fell in love immediately. That big blue bulging hood and those beautiful mirrors, and it made my dad bothered, so it was probably pretty cool. And I talked to the man. He goes, "Actually, I was thinking about maybe selling it." So later I called him on the phone. We arranged a deal. It was a very nice price. I'm like, I got to get there and buy this quick before he changes his mind. And I lived in a small town, and this man lived about 2.5 hours away, and I had to find a buddy who could drive the car home. Nobody was available. And so I called this girl who was interested. I'm like, "You want to go with me out of town to buy a car? I need somebody to drive it back. We'll have a fun, make a day thing out of it." And as oftentimes you're surprised by people who own supercars, it's very interesting to see where they live. And she's like, "Oh, it's just down here, the driveway." And we're on this driveway, and on this driveway, and on this driveway, and it goes and goes and goes past horses and manicures, very beautiful. And you get to a very beautiful house with a turnaround, American flag out, and I remember as a sunset, and there's the Viper just sitting there looking glorious. But the thing that was so interesting about this Viper is, as a 20-something single guy, I realized this car, over a lot of other exotic cars, seems to have an effect on this single woman. I really like this and I'm gonna go with this. And soon after, the car earned the nickname Goose, because I said it was the best wingman ever, and it had absolutely nothing to do with flying. And at the time, I lived in a very small Midwestern town, 18,000 people. There's some industrial, a lot of farming, that sort of thing. And our family business was a small golf course out of town. And every day I'd drive to the golf course. And the course being out in the middle of the country, you know, there's not a lot of patrolmen out there, and being a race driver, I would use my car and really enjoy it. I would drive out to the golf course every day, have a great time. There's a hot rod shop out there. I knew I could blaze by there in like fourth gear, and then used to be a railroad track, so I slow down. You just crest the hill without catching air. And there's a stop sign, this beautiful road between fields, there's nobody around, and you could accelerate full throttle, like first, second, third gear, right into fourth, and you'd be flat out, and you could just get to that corner without lifting. And of course, you're on and sailing by. And then eventually, a little bit, you start seeing a few residential houses, so you bring it back down to a reasonable speed. And then there was this left-hand turn, which is kind of a third gear sweeper. So, you know, boom, boom, third gear, flat out, back down this hill, back up to fourth, fifth, down to first, and then blast it back up to the golf course. You know, I grew up driving like that, and that's probably how it helped become a race car driver. But there's a problem with this that I didn't realize as a 20-something-year-old kid. It's not going to take long before everybody knows who you are and everybody knows your driving habits. And it didn't help matters that on that third gear corner, there was a very crusty old man that lived there. And that on the other street, where I would slow down just a little bit for the crest of the hill, my ex-girlfriend mother, who hated my guts, I don't know why, because I was very nice to her, What happened was the hot rod guys started seeing sheriffs sitting on the road, and they're like, you guys never patrol out here. Is there something we should know about? Well, probably my ex-girlfriend's mother made such a fuss about it that it became a thing in a small town where it basically was the Dukes of Hazzard, and it became a Roscoe P. Coltrane's got a bet with the city cops to who can nail the flashy race car Viper first. And it hit me within about 3 hours, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this town. I can't be me here anymore. I'm not going to be able to work on race cars and flashy cars if this is the way it is. Because this isn't like the 70s and 80s. I can't go sliding a Dodge Charger sideways and have fun with the good old boys. I made a deal to move out of town to work with this guy with his race shop and do some fun stuff. And a week later, it was a very short time, I ended up moving out of town and starting things that way. When I moved out of town to Columbus, Ohio, it had a really good exotic car scene. The Cars and Coffee there. I love the environment. I love being around the people. The horizon was much bigger and better. But at the same time too, I was young and cocky, and which probably didn't work in my favor, but made things a lot of fun sometimes. We would go on all these great exotic car drives through the countryside and power in numbers, you're fast, and it was fun. And I remember this time we got lost in the middle of the country, totally turned around. Now there's all these supercars, it looked like Austin Powers trying to turn around, and they're going up this gravel hill. And another friend of mine, Joe, in a Porsche comes there to turn around. And I kind of had this little thing, which was very immature of me at the time. I was in my 20s, give me a break. With this guy he was pretty cool. He was a CEO. He really got into Ferraris, Lamborghinis. But to me and my kind of friends that built stuff, he was sort of like the rich kid of the group in high school that's not really that cool and not that good at riding BMX bikes, but he hangs out anybody, but you kind of want to mess with him, And I remember he was behind me in some Ferrari, and I'm like, all right, let's see if you can do this. So I'm like, okay, flip into kart racing mode. And I hadn't done this in the Viper, but my brain just told me I could. We need to turn around and go this way, and I've got a short area. So I'm like, I'm just gonna light up the tires, get the coefficient, twitch it this way, that way, and spin it around and go back, no problem. Well, it actually worked, and it was a beautiful thing. It did it exactly how it worked in my mind, which that's not always how life works, but in this case it did, and I was thankful. And I remember accelerating by him in the Ferrari, and just for a moment I was like, wah, like this. And that was me in my 20s. But the Viper is a fantastic car. It was reliable. I just enjoyed putting miles and miles and miles on it because it never broke. And I never felt bad about parking in a parking lot because it had a fiberglass body and you wouldn't get door dings. And I remember in 2013, it was December, there was no snow on the ground, there was no ice, and I took the Viper out to go meet with some friends. And I was driving back to my condo on Sawmill Drive, and it was a typical, 2 lanes each way and a median, 45, 50 mile an hour. And I was just driving home, wasn't even doing anything interesting or going fast, and I see a car come blazing out from the other side across traffic. And I'm thinking, okay, they probably see me coming and they just want to go southbound like me. I'm just going to move over a lane, let them have that lane. No. And this is all happening within quarters of a second. And so I just move over in the lane, maintain the speed, and I see the car coming. I'm like, they're not stopping. I was mad because now I'm on the brakes as hard as I can. It is a Viper with ABS. It's December. Pirellis are not going to grab. And then the moment goes, I'm going to hit that car. And there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, I'm mad. And then I see that big, beautiful Viper hood I fell in love with on the racetrack go, whoa, like this. And it hit hard enough that it felt weightless, but I didn't know if I was just like instantaneous adrenaline mad. And just pummeled the car and then slid and then hit the curb. And I'm sitting there, I'm fine. The airbags never went off because I put in a Nardi wheeling, so those were gone. And I had the presence of mind from working on cars for all those years. Okay, the car got wrecked in the front. Turn off the motor so nothing bad happens to the engine so you can fix it in the future. And I turn off the car and I'm so mad. And I get out, and this is a very busy street, 5 lanes, but I didn't care. I'm black leather jacket, sunglasses on. I just straight Terminator marched across the road because I hit this car so hard. It stopped all the forward momentum. It spun around once or twice in oncoming traffic where other cars hit it. This is my car. I worked to get this. I'm a kid from the cornfields working on this, and you just wrecked it. And it's a Viper, so everybody's gonna think I screwed up. You know what I mean? Come on. So I remember walking up and this door opens, and for a moment, I didn't feel bad, but I'm not gonna pick a fight because it was this not very athletic looking young woman in a not very athletic looking car. But I was so mad, it just took over, and all that came out of my mouth was, stupid! And so I turn around, and come on, I'm a little embarrassed, but like the car just got wrecked. Give me a break. Everybody was fine. Nobody got hurt at all. But the car she ended up clipping over there was driven by a young woman who's probably 16 years old that had her baby in the back seat and another woman over there. And I'm like, oh my God, could this be any more ridiculous? And everybody's going to think I'm basically Satan, because clearly it's my fault, even though I was doing the speed limit and obeying all the laws, and I have 0 points on my license. And I'm standing over there, and now the guy who lives a few doors down from me sees this. He's driving his Nissan GTR, so he's going to come to Car Guy Rescue. And now suddenly other like exotic cars are coming by to see what's going on. And these people involved with the wreck, and they all think I'm the devil because basically it's an exotic car and now there's a wreck. So police officer does everything, comes up to me and says, "Sir, she was in a left-hand turn lane only. Everything she did was illegal. Even if you were doing 200 miles an hour, it's still her fault. You're fine." And I said, "Well, thank you, but I actually wasn't this time." The car was pretty smashed up. I mean, it's a Viper, there's other fish in the sea, let insurance take it. I did well enough, had a good policy, and they went to bat for me on the other people, so everything was fine. And I got a call from a guy that had bought my wrecked Viper, and he was fixing it up because I had a sticker on it. He tracked me down. And he goes, "I wondered if you maybe had any parts for it." And I'm like, "Actually, I do." And so he bought some parts off of me, and he fixed it up, and I didn't pay attention to it. And he calls me back 6 months later and go, "Well, I fixed it, but I think I'm going to sell it. You want to buy it?" And the price was right. And I went and looked at it, and I had a tick, had some things to do, but my fiance at the time, my wife, was like, "That car was your baby. Like, that was you. You need to just get it." And I did. And I spent a bunch of time fixing it up. And me rebuilding the car was therapeutic because I never want to get rid of it. I'm going to put 1 million miles on this thing. It's still a great car. It's still a total hooligan car, but it's very reliable. They say you can't keep a good man down, and you can't keep a good car down. And so for me, my favorite car forever, daily driver, is my '97 Dodge Viper GTS.